You are here on purpose with a purpose by design and not by default. And it is your time right now to share your story on Right Now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am so excited that you are back again for another amazing episode. And today I have with me another incredible guest, someone that I have been able to get to know through our coach, John Tallarico, and Thinking into Results. This woman is incredible. Her story is amazing, and she is an author and a speaker and so much more. So welcome with me into the studio today, Crystal Harrell. Welcome, Crystal. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Pamela. This is, like I said, like a true honor to really sit here and tell my story and share my truth on your platform. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, it is a true honor to have you here. And I just want to applaud you because when I say, hey, you want to come on the podcast, you want to come and do this and that, and you like jumped. You were like, yes, I do. And you know what? That's the way I am when I'm offered to come and share somewhere. I just feel like that's part of your calling and that's what you do. And you go when those doors are opened. And not everybody takes that so seriously and just kind of jumps in there like you did. And so I'm just really just want to thank you for doing that because you're here today. There's going to be so many lives touched and changed. So with no further ado, let's get on with the show. So I've already welcomed you. Welcome to our guests for being here. But my first question to you is, Crystal, who are you?
That is an excellent question because it took me a long time to discover really the answer to that. And so I'll give a little bit of my background story. So I was born and raised in rural Alabama. I come from a small town called Ozark, Alabama, but my family is from Miami and Georgia, and I'm one of 10. So I have 9 brothers and sisters. It's 7 girls and 3 boys total. And I was raised by both my parents up until the age of 11 when I lost my father to leukemia. And we grew up in public housing apartments in rural Alabama because my mom wanted to, escape the adversity of the area she was living in Miami called Liberty City. And if you're familiar with Les Brown, he talks a lot about Liberty City and the type of neighborhood that it can be and how dangerous that it can be. And so with, several children, my mom didn't want to risk raising her kids there. And so she took all of us when she was actually pregnant with me. She moved to Alabama to be closer to her mom. And so I was born and raised there my whole life. And when I graduated high school, I went to Auburn University to get my undergrad degree in sociology. And then I stayed another year to get my master's of science. And while I was in that program, I discovered my love for public health and service. And so I switched my field of major or my field of study, and I switched it to epidemiology, which is in the field of public health. And so I went to George Washington, got my MPH in epidemiology, and now I'm studying at Yale to get my PhD in public health.
Wow, you're like one of those real book smart people.
Book smart. A lot of people say book smart, but very, very ditzy I can be.
But you know what? Your work ethic is incredible. Nobody gets, master's degrees. Just, that's work. Good for you. And Yale? Oh my gosh. So your mom paved the way in so many different ways for you, didn't she? Like, think about that rough start, everybody. Not only, you were born and raised and growing up in this incredible family, but then have this tragedy strike your home and lose dad. And, you know where he is. He's moved on. He's in heaven, right? But, he's not here with you, and you're just young and your family's young. And then to your mom to make that decision, like, she has to be quite a woman to rally around, what do I need to do for my children in the midst of her loss, like of everything that she's trying to navigate through. She put you guys first, brought you into a different place that had a different setup, where you would have, in her opinion, a better chance of thriving through life. And thrive you have.
Yeah.
A story. And that's just, folks, this is just like the first couple of minutes of this program. So get ready to have your world rocked in a glorious way. That's amazing, Crystal. Like, so there's 9 brothers and sisters for you, right?
Yeah.
And you were the youngest, is that what you said?
I'm number 7, so I was
Number 7, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not the youngest, you have some trailing in behind you.
Yes, I do. I have a sister and a brother, and I have. Oh, I think by the time I was in high school, there were only like 5 of us left in the house. So like as I was growing up, like there were some older siblings, and so even though we were all raised in the same house, like they were leaving the house while we were coming in. So I don't really like remember being like I remember them being in the house, but like so young, like I could barely remember like them actually being around. But I think at the time there were probably about 7 or 8 of us at the house at once, with my parents included. And so it was like a 4-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
And so I shared a room with my sister until I graduated high school. So I've never had my own room. It was just kind of like we were close, and my parents are both ministers. Like my mom's a pastor and my dad was a deacon. And so we were raised in the Christian faith, and we were also raised to honestly just like love and support each other, and we still carry that today. And even though the death of my father was very tragic, and I actually didn't even know how significant, I guess, that event was in my life until I got older. But even though that happened, we kind of actually became closer as a family. And my mom, I really love my mom so much. And even though I didn't always see that she was trying to do the best for us, now that I'm out of the house and I'm older and I've gained clarity and wisdom, I see now that she did the best she could with the hand that she was dealt.
Yes. I think that is such a wonderful thing for you to say for your mom and for everybody to hear, because truly we do the best we can do with the hand that we are dealt. And I think there is something so important to recognize here, Crystal, that you are sharing and saying, I might not have recognized it here, but I see it now. And that's very normal. It's very normal, once we are growing older, we're out of the house, we're into our own life, that as we're adulting through life, that we begin to really see what sacrifices were made. We begin to understand what our guardians, our caregivers, whoever those would be in our lives, why they did what they did. And we begin to get an understanding, even if there were things that happened that were difficult. I just think the story begins to unwind, kind of like pulling a string on yarn, as we get out and get into the real world and start to experience life through a different lens. Like for you, out in the school, out in the world, but in the academies, in the universities, pursuing your education, and having that faith grounding makes a big difference for sure.
Definitely.
So good. Well, I have another question for you, and this is just kind of a fun one that I like to ask everybody that comes on the show. So you could have a billboard, Crystal, on one of the big interstates. What would yours say?
My billboard would say, against all odds.
Against all odds. I'm writing that down. Yes. Make sure you guys have your paper and your pen or whatever, because I have a feeling with Crystal, we're going to have a lot of note taking today. Against all odds. And then would it be like ... or what?
It would just be a period. Against all odds, with my image of this physical form of who I am. It would be that, and it would be that statement, because I study public health and I study health disparities, and being affected by health illness when, as I was growing up and watching my father, suffer from a chronic disease and inevitably losing his life to that disease, I understand the impact of the situation that I grew up in, because I read the research, I see the statistics, I do the research in these communities. And so I see that whenever you are raised in communities like this, the odds are, or the statistics say, that you are more likely to end up in a similar pattern. And so for the love and the dedication that my parents poured into not just me, but all of my siblings, to rise up out of that situation and to give us, they gave us vision. That is honestly something that went against the narrative, that went against the statistic. It beat the odds. And so, like, to me, that would be the greatest statement, because I understand the trajectory of people who look like me in situations like that, but that's not always the case. Then you can choose a different story. You can rewrite your narrative and you can beat the odds.
You can choose a different story. You can rewrite the narrative, and you can beat the odds. Man, that's good. I'm writing that down. Change your story. Did you guys get that? Change the story. Oh my gosh. Beat the narrative. Oh, yes. It's all about that narrative, what we are telling ourselves, isn't it? It's
Yes.
so true. What we do think on, we will evolve into, it will become. So, what narrative are you telling yourself today, folks? And so, with that, stepping more into your story now, share with us your story. We know a little bit about your backstory now, and understand the public health kind of direction that your life is also taking. But share with us the story of Crystal.
Mm. So I would have to start with the vision that was told to my mother before I was born. And so my mom was living in Miami, as I mentioned, and she was working as a waitress at Golden Corral, which is like a all-you-can-eat buffet restaurant that's typically found in the South. And she had a friend there, and her friend name was Miss Story. And so one day, Miss Story came to my mom when my mom clocked in, and she was like, Elaine, and that's my mom's name. She was like, Elaine, I had a dream that you were standing next to this crystal clear river. And she said the water was so clear you could see right through. And she said it was beautiful. It was just sparkling and it was flowing. And she said, as you were standing next to this river, there was a little girl standing next to you, and she was holding your hand. And she described the little girl to my mom. She told her, what her skin looked like, what her hair, everything. And so no one knew my mom was pregnant at the time, because her and my father were just, trying to still keep it concealed until they were further along in the pregnancy. And so when my mom paused after Miss Story finished telling her, her dream, my mom was just like, I'm pregnant. And then they just both went crazy. She was like, I knew it. I knew you were pregnant. And so my mom was like, if it's a girl, then I'll name her Crystal. And so I was, a girl. And she named me Crystal after that river. And so it didn't really hit me at the time. My mom first told me that story after my dad passed, so maybe when I was about 12 or 13. And it didn't really hit me at the time, but that vision, that dream was a symbol for the life that I was supposed to live, or that I was coming to live. And so my mom always tells me that my life is meant to flow like that river. And when dams, form, they eventually will diminish, or they'll, dissolve, and then the river will flow again. And so I really believe that my purpose, or I know that my purpose in this world, is to flow and to help people gain clarity on their truth. And help people maintain their flow while at the same time maintaining mine. And so anytime that I have the opportunity to speak my truth into, Crystal actually means brilliant glass. It means clarity. It's Greek. And so whenever I feel like I'm helping people uncover the truth within themselves, it gives me so much power, because it feels like, this is my calling. This is the purpose. This is what I was born to do. I was born to share my truth. I was born to lead people to truth. And I honestly think that, like, in the process, it's honestly just been leading people to themselves, because in the society we live in, we're so disconnected, and we're taught that we need something external in order to feel validated. And I fell into that trap for the majority of my life. After my father passed away, I dealt with abandonment issues. I was having panic attacks. Everything associated with childhood trauma was happening to me. Not everything, but most things. And I didn't know what was going on. And so once I started uncovering these like hidden truths about who I was, things started to become clear. And I was no longer seeking validation by being this overachiever, getting all these degrees, trying to prove my worth, because I wanted someone to look at me and see that I was worthy, not knowing that I was already worthy because I'm a child of God. And so I really believe that that insight on the river, and my relationship to that, and the purpose that I bring into this world. Like, that's my purpose. That's my story. And like Les Brown says, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So my whole life, I want to just flow.
You know, as you're saying that, I'm reminded of a couple of scripture verses, and one of them is from the book of, I think it's Isaiah, but it says that we dig down deep into the wells of salvation with joy. And then, of course, Jesus tells us in the New Testament that out of us will flow rivers of living water. And so, as you were saying that, I thought of those two verses and how the well of salvation is really for us, you know,
Yes.
and that we can choose to dig down with that, with the joy, with the positivity, with, you know, and all of that stuff. But the rivers are for others. They're for ministry. And here your name having to do with you know, a river. It's like you were, as I hear that vision that was given to your mom about you, that it was, of course, your namesake, but that even from before you were a thing, you know, but in God's, he's known us since before we were in existence in the physical form. We've been with him, and called you to be a river. And with that understanding, that river it's being poured out for others. It's being poured out. And that's what you desire to do with your life. But that goes along with the namesake of the vision that was given to your mom about you. So you know what? You're just doing what Mr. Brown says, I can't help it. You know,
Yes.
that's what you're doing. And I wrote down that the here it is. The river will not stay dammed up or backed up. It will push through and continue to flow. So in those times in our life where we feel like things are getting stopped up, the river will not stay that way. It has a current. It's got motion. My father lived on the river for the latter half of his life. He lived right there, and I mean, you would see how the water would just erode away the shoreline because
Yes.
it was not going to be stopped, and there was persistence, and like that current was like it would take whatever was in the water, it was gone, you know. So as you were speaking about that, I just really felt that that was something for you to realize that even from before you were a twinkle in anybody's eye, that you had been called to be this river of hope, this river of clarity, and that your life would be constantly in that movement and you're not going to get stopped up. But for all of us that are watching and enjoying this today, this is a word in due season for you as well. So you can choose to dig down into that well of salvation with joy and let the rivers continue to flow. And if you feel like you're in a dry spot, you feel like you're in a stop spot, you just listen to Crystal's story today because you're going to move past it just like her. My gosh, that was so powerful. Like that vision for your mom to know about you and that her friend didn't even know that they were with child, that she was pregnant. You have been chosen, girl. You have a destiny. You can't avoid it. So
I've tried. I literally, I like the first, like I said, like once you experience something traumatic, like I said, like losing my dad was honestly felt like the worst thing that could have happened to me because I was a daddy's girl, literally by definition. My dad was also my first educator, which is why I'm so passionate about education. He never received a college degree, so I'm a first generation low income student. And but he was always reading. He had bookshelves that reached the ceiling in his room, and he was always reading books about personal development. He was a mechanic, so he had a lot of like books about cars. He also he was, you know, like I said, we were in the church, so he had like a lot of like spiritual books as well. And so I always saw my dad reading, and he would read to me and read to my siblings at night as well. And so like the interest that I had in education when I went to my dad and asked him to teach me how to count or teach me my ABCs before I was in school, like that interest turned into a passion after he passed away. And to me, education is how I still stay connected to my father. after his transition. So it's honestly something that I push as well, because like everyone or people try to say like, school isn't for everybody. And that may be the case. The traditional educational system may not support everyone's educational needs, but education is for every single one. Self-education is one of the best things you can do for yourself. And when I got into personal development and spiritual growth books like, Think and Grow Rich, Psycho-Cybernetics, Dale Carnegie, which was actually a book that I found in my dad's old library. It was Dale Carnegie's The Quick and Effective Way to Public Speaking. And I didn't even know my dad was into that, because my dad was very quiet. He whenever he spoke, he did say, he had something to say, but he was never one of those people who were just like always talking. And, like he was very, very insightful and very observant. And so when I found these books, it was just like everything that my parents were, my grandparents, like that resiliency, everything that they were and they are is also in me. And, scientists will tell you now there's nothing lost in the genetic code, which is why in my book, I actually started with my ancestry, because in order to know where you're going, you must first understand where you've been.
Wow. I can't wait to hear more about your book. So we're almost there, especially what you just said, understanding where you've been and that whole DNA thing. I find that stuff fascinating. Now, because of where you've been, you have a book, and because of that book, you are now sharing your story, and we're going to hear about the book in a second. But the specific question for now is, how has your story bringing you up today, right now, how are you able to use it to motivate others for change and to inspire others?
Yeah, so it's honestly just one of those things where you have to put yourself aside. You have to understand when ego is trying to lead the way and fear is trying to lead the way. So there's a quote by Wayne Dyer that says, you could either be a host to God or a victim to ego. And so I believe that my story is an expression of my creator and everything that I was put here to do. And so honestly, just using my story and using my book as, I think of it as a business card. And I think of, even though I didn't need a degree, I didn't need to, join the military. I didn't need to do any of this to establish my worth and on this earth, in this physical reality, but it served as my stage and as my platform, and it drew attention to the real thing, which was using my story to inspire. So even though like my intentions were to help people navigate through higher education, I started to notice that after my book was written, that people from all different, geographical like backgrounds, people from different walks of life were reading my story. And the common word, because I always believe in research and also looking for patterns, because I have a very, very analytical mind, which is why I dedicated my life to research science. But I always look for patterns. And something that I've noticed from, the messages I would get or the book reviews was the word inspiring or inspiration. And so to me, my story is put here to inspire. And I honestly think that no matter what path I would have chosen in life, God would have used me to do something inspiring. And when I was young, I wanted to be an artist. And so I've always been involved with different things. And my peers would always comment that I was so talented. And so I really believe that that gift of just like really being able to do things and really pour my heart into it and to be able to excel at it was put there to draw attention, almost like, like a light, like it's something that attracts people. And which is why I'm so fascinated with the walk of Christ, because when he started to walk in his purpose, whenever he started his ministry, he drew multitudes. And so to me, like your purpose in life, your vision, your expression of your purpose in life draws crowds. It draws people to you because it's something that connects all of us. We all desire that freedom of expression,
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have to repeat that. The expression of your purpose draws crowds.
Yes.
That's like a drop the mic statement. So if you are not, just listen to the profoundness of that, everybody. If you are not drawing crowds, now a crowd, don't get into thinking like football stadium, but if you are not finding your peeps, I call them your peeps. Where's my peeps? You're not feeling that fulfilling of, I'm supposed to be helping people or whatever it is. are you pursuing your passion? Because as even Jesus, when he just said, all right, I'm stepping out into that to that next phase of ministry for just a couple of years is all that it was for him. He drew massive crowds around him as he stepped into his purpose.
Yes.
That is so powerful, Crystal. As we yield and surrender and step into our purpose by design, the crowds will come. And that means not just people following you, it
Yes.
means who you are here to lead, guide, help, assist, direct, whatever it is. When you get into that flow, um, the people are going to come or they're going to go. When you flow, they go, right? So that is such a powerful statement. Oh my gosh. And it causes you to be, what did you say about that Wayne Dyer? What was it? Victim to ego, but what was the first part of it? To God, you would be a what?
You can either be a host to God or a victim. Or no, he said you can either be a host to God or a hostage to ego.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh. A host to God. And as a host to God, you are, I think about it's plugging in something into
Yes.
the outlet, and then you have all the power, right?
Yes.
And to power the room, to whatever it is. That's just so profound. I had to come back and say, okay. So in regards to giving hope to others, in regards to inspiring others, here comes the crowd. Is there anything else there you want to share on that before we go to the next question?
It's one thing that I will say about the crowd, because I know like our culture has honestly pushed this mainstream idea of fame and recognition. And to me, the crowd, even if you don't have the physical crowd, and I know a lot of the times it's, everything is digital. So we have like people following, we're so concerned with that. And like, I'm, a millennial. And so like, there's this whole culture around like how many followers do you have, how many likes do you have, and so that's created like this false identity, this what do you call that, it's kind of like it's not real, it's a virtual type of reality, and it's only showing the highlight reels of your life. And so I will say that whenever you start walking in your purpose, this is going to take some self-reflection. It's going to take a high level of awareness and intention to make sure that you're being authentic in your truth, because people think that it's easy to deceive people. It's really not. We're all very, very intelligent. We all are connected to divine intelligence. And so there's something unspoken about what we are able to perceive as spiritual beings having a human experience. And so people feel energy because we're energetic beings either way. Even science has proved, this, what, spiritual leaders have known for literally like ever since the beginning of time. But we are energetic beings. And so when you're walking in authenticity, you are vibrating at a higher frequency, which literally draws more people to see that. And that's how you start attracting more. But if you're doing this and you're trying to basically get this platform to get more followers, get more likes, it comes off sometimes in a way that it's not very authentic. And so you just have to be careful with that. And even me, like I have to assess every time I make a post or I share something, like what are my intentions? And Oprah Winfrey actually talks about this before she did any episode of the Oprah show. She would say, what intention do I have with this episode? And so if it wasn't to inspire people, if it wasn't to bring people closer to truth or bring people closer to God, then she wouldn't air it. She said this herself. She said there's a lot of episodes of the Oprah show that we will never see, because the intentions weren't right. And so that's something that I would leave with that.
I want to circle back to something you said. You talked about how spiritual leaders have known this for, eons, but it's now coming like to the front. And that was, you brought in that whole scientific piece of frequencies and all of that. And I know with your scientific mind that that's something that you could really speak to. So I know it's not in our checklist of questions, but I just feel very strongly to ask you to expound a little bit on that, because that might be a foreign thing to some people that are listening, because it can be misconstrued as, well, there's like the spiritual over here, and then there's this scientific stuff over here. But they, no, they don't mix, they don't blend. But what you're saying is absolutely true. But with your education and the way your mind's eye sees that, how do you bridge that gap to somebody? Somebody might need to hear that right now and realize that they need to not be afraid of the whole idea of a frequency, or that it's even real, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I remember the first time I learned about this concept, I was watching a nature documentary with my dad, and they were talking about how it was either sharks or some type of other type of like animal that's found in the ocean, and they said that they could actually sense the electronic like vibrations that your body gives off in the water. And they kind of did like this animation where they showed like the electronic like current that was coming off of the human being. And I remember being like 10 or 11 and my mind was just blown, and I was just like, there's electricity. Like, and it's like there's, and then I started, learning about atoms and electrons and everything. And so everything in this earth, the chair you're sitting in, the lights, like everything, like you are made up of atoms. If you break everything down to the smallest particle, it's an atom. Atoms are constantly vibrating. And so even though science has been able to prove this, that there is a vibration that occurs at the smallest level, they haven't really been able to explain what actually makes them move. So what is the in between the atoms? And so, what we call that is just the energetic flow. And that's what scientists have been able to bring it to. And obviously, as education, as understanding and research evolves, we'll have a better understanding of this too. But everything is made out of energy. Everything is made out of atoms. And so to me, like just understanding that your vibrational state that you're in, not your emotions. Emotions are just a conscious awareness of your vibrational state. And if you want me to explain that, I can. But emotions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so emotions, and as being like an emotional being, and we all are emotional as well, emotional beings too. It's just like different levels of it. But as someone who is highly emotional, it's easy to feel like some emotions are good or bad. But Shakespeare said, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And it's the same thing with emotions. There are no bad emotions. There are no good emotions. But just understand that there are emotions that can bring you in a negative vibrational state, which means they're very low vibrating. So things like sadness, feeling depressed, like those are very low vibrational states. And something like happiness, joy, gratitude, which is what all these personal development, speakers are, talking on. These are high vibrational energies or emotions. So the emotion isn't good or bad. We're talking about the positive or negative state that it leaves you feeling in. So just understanding that and understanding that you attract like things. This is something also that has been, scientifically proven that, what you put out, you actually get in. And so it's the same thing, like all these, theologians, philosophers, scientists, they're all saying the same thing. They're just finding different ways to say it. And so just understanding that you attract what you are. So whatever vibrational state you're in, you actually attract like situations or like objects. So that's why, like, when you're having a bad day, it seems like everything goes bad that day. And when you're having a good day, it's like, oh, like good things just come left and right. That's because the vibrational state you're in are attracting these like opportunities, these like moments. And so everything is here. It's just, what are you attracting to you? What are you allowing to yourself to be consciously aware of?
Wow. And the scripture verse to go with that would be that God, that speaking to Abraham, that God himself called things that be not as though they were.
Yes.
Right. So, I wanted to just hone that in, because hearing somebody that has the education that Crystal has, that can speak to this, you can take a scripture verse like that.
Yes.
You can, and then you can hold it up to the scientific truth and see what it is that the holy books are saying. What is the holy book saying? What in that? And of course, faith is involved in that. I have to, even on a scientific level, I have, like, come on, I'm vibrating. I mean, I know that I am. Really, my atoms are whatever. This chair isn't sitting still. Come on, that's silliness. But take it by faith, unless you are in the workforce or in the arena of something that Crystal is in, when you actually get to study it out and maybe even look at it under some type of a microscope or something, you don't see it. You just have to know that it is true. And
Yes.
when you understand that what the creator was saying, when he was saying, I call things that be not as though they were, that is the vibration he was speaking into your life.
That's why words are so powerful. And the book says, the Holy Bible says, the tongue has the power of life and death. Your words that you speak are so, so powerful. And you have to be careful what comes out of your mouth. But more importantly, what are you pouring into your subconscious?
Yes, that's what that means. So it's life and death, not like, oh yeah, whatever. What I say doesn't matter. It does matter. And it's not just because it's some high pie in the sky, some religious so-and-so, somebody that said something. There is a scientific connection here. And so it's not just some motivational speaker or some preacher over here or somebody that's just, there is an absolute solid truth to this that causes you to live life in a different vein, a higher plane. And that doesn't mean that we don't go through things in our life, but just like Crystal said, when we go through that, we got that law of opposites or polarity, there's here, great, and then there's here. And coming back to scripture, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, you are with me. We have a choice of where we're going to put our focus at that time. If we're going to be pulled down, or if we're going to recognize that, like you said, Crystal, and start to look up, which is why it says, look up. For where does your help come from? It doesn't mean that we sit there and look at the sky. It means it's talking about, yeah. Oh my God.
And it took me so long to realize this, Pamela. It was like someone had peeled the layer back from my eyes and I could finally see. And that's why it says truth will set you free, because it does. Freedom in your thinking and your awareness. And it's just like when you realize that fear literally is an illusion, like everything that people try to tell you about what's possible for you, like all these negative delusional things, that can be placed in society, it's all smoke and mirrors. And so once you are connected to the truth, which is that you are connected to God, you are connected to divine source energy, like that is in you, that is around you, that is everything that is, then you start walking through life as if you're seeing things in HD. And it's really amazing.
I love that. Seeing things in HD. That is, I love that. Oh man, I can see why your name is Crystal and why you are a river of life. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. So Crystal, this is a great place for us to transition, still staying in this flow about your book. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I want to read this specifically. I want to know what inspired you to write your first bestseller first. So there's going to be more that are coming. Best-selling book. And I'm going to read the whole title. Crystal Clear, A Journey of Self-Discovery from Public Housing to Ivy League. Tell us about this. I mean, we know some of your story, but oh my goodness, Crystal Clear, tell us about this book and where can we find it?
Yes, I would love to, Pamela. This is so exciting for me because I've always journaled. So after my dad passed away, I started journaling when I was in middle school to help me deal with some of the emotions that I was experiencing. And so I've always kind of wrote in a journal, talked about, what I felt, what was going on in school. And I know my mom was reading my journal. I even told me one time. So it was fine. I didn't have any secrets, but I was just always writing. And my mom is a writer as well. So I grew up watching her write music, watching her write books. And so it was just something, like I said, we are our ancestors. We literally are. Everything is passed down to us. Nothing is lost in your genetic code. And so when the pandemic first started in March of 2020, like most people, I really went through a state of grief. I was lamenting a life that honestly I thought would never change. I was, living out of my home state. I was in Washington, D.C., finishing my master's degree in epidemiology. And it was my first time living away from home. And I was thriving. Like literally, like I had friend groups who were going out for happy hour. I was doing well in my classes. I had a downtown apartment, like a studio apartment on the top floor. Like literally, like life couldn't have gotten better. And I thought to myself, like I can breathe. And then overnight, my life changed and I was so broken. And so I was calling my mom all the time, naturally, as an adult, what we do, we call our parents and we cry about how hard adulting is. And so I was doing that. And my mom was like, baby, you deal with so much anxiety because you have so much to say and you never do. And so she kept telling me, like, write a book. And, she's a writer. So, of course, she kept pushing it. She was like, you need to write a book. And also at the time, people were coming to me because I got certified as an academic success coach. And so people were like, can you help me? I want to apply here. And so I was just helping people who DM me on Instagram or Facebook, helping them deal with stuff. And then it got so overwhelming as the world was changing. And so my mom was like, baby, put it in a book, everything put it in a book. Name it crystal clear. And when someone contacts you, tell them, you can read it in my book. If they want to know more about you and your story, she said, just tell them, refer them to your book. And so I was like, okay, mom, okay, I'll do it. And so time had passed. And then I joined Les Brown's Power Voice program. And on December 16th, I had the opportunity to tell my hero, someone I followed since I was like 17, I got a chance to tell him my story. And the first thing out of his mouth was, do you have a book? And I lost it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm going to write one like my mom wants me to. And he was like, well, let me give you some ideas for your book. And so he gave me a few chapter ideas. And literally, I think a week later, I made a list. I was like, I'm going to finish my book by the end of 2020. And so during the pandemic, during quarantine, I sat down, I woke up every day before the sun. I sold my television because I didn't want any distractions. I created a space that was clear, a space that was thriving in my closet so that I could really be relaxed when I wrote. And I just wrote it. And on December 31st, 2020 at 5 p.m., I finished my first draft of my book. And then I hired a publishing coach to walk me through the publishing process, because as a coach, I understand the necessity of, and honestly, just like the benefits of having someone hold the vision for you and walk you through the process. And so I didn't want to spend more time putting off something that I know I should have done a long time ago. So I hired a publishing coach. It was a guaranteed bestseller. And so I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose if they say it's guaranteed, And so they walked me through the process. And on March 14th, a week before my launch date, my official launch date, it reached number one bestseller in adult and continual education, and also biographies of educators.
That went so fast.
It was, a couple of months. And the universe loves speed. Once you set that intention, as long as you're walking in the path and when it feels right. It wasn't always easy doing it. But the reason why there was so much resistance is because I was trying to put off something I know I was being called to do. Right. So my resistance to that truth was causing the discomfort.
I was there that night. I remember you giving your speech on the 16th. And I when you said that, I went, oh my gosh, that's right. I was there. I was in the class. I heard it. I heard him talk to you. And here we are today. The book is done. I was there. I saw that conception of it. And here we are in September, just a few months later. And the book is finished. It's a bestseller. And you're on Purpose by Design promoting it. That's amazing. You realize that.
I didn't really realize it until you just said it, to be honest.
As Mr. Brown says, you can't make this stuff up.
Yes. Right? He's so powerful. Just that you realize how important community is, and just to have someone, a group of people who are also trying to make an impact in this world by using their story and walking their purpose, having that community around, even though it was virtual, it kickstarted. It honestly was the catalyst for everything that I see when I look in the mirror today, and I'm realizing just how powerful it is,
Yes. Oh my gosh, so powerful. That, the minute you said that, I was transported back in my mind to yep, I remember that. I remember it. Had you not said it, I probably wouldn't have thought about it in that moment, right? But that was a powerful evening in general. But
Yes,
I remember
good.
that very, very clearly. Wow. So listen, everybody, this is how fast you can travel. If you will just move. And if you'll listen to these things that Crystal has imparted to you today, just a few of the things that she has shared about, you know, about moving, about frequencies, about calling things that be not as though they were, about stepping out in faith, the things that she said, hey, her mom said to her, but you got so much to say, you need to get it out, you need to get it down. Having the wisdom to find a publishing coach. I just, I just want to applaud you for that, because why reinvent the wheel when somebody else already knows what to do? And your message, people need to hear it. Your voice, your story matters. All of us do. Your story matters. And there's lives hanging in the balance.
Yes.
They're hanging in the balance, and they need what you have to say. They need what you have written, Crystal. There's people listening and watching right now, and they're saying, I needed to hear that. And they're going to get that book, and that book is going to change their life. Okay, in regards to the book, anything else that you want to talk about or share? And please don't forget to tell us how to get the book.
Oh, yes. Oh, so you can find it on Amazon if you just type in Crystal Clear, A Journey of Self-Discovery, or you type in Crystal Clear and then put my full name, Crystal Harrell, then you'll be able to find it. And I have it in paperback and ebook, and I haven't really announced it yet, but the audiobook is actually complete. I just have to upload it to Audible. And because of the way classes have been, I haven't got the chance. And I know, like, the longer I wait to do that, because I know a lot of people listen to audiobooks, we have busy lives. And so it's a short read. It's about, a little under 4 hours. And so I really want to, push the audiobook, because that'll be the final format. So I'm planning, so on my calendar, I have it written down for October, the end of October, to have the audiobook uploaded. And so you'll be able to find it on Amazon in all 3 formats. And so I guess the last thing I would share about the book is just, I wrote it in a conversational style. So whenever you're writing, you want to think about someone that you're writing to. And I thought of my younger self. I thought of, maybe I needed, like, words that I needed to hear when I was, in that state, when I was a very broken teenager. Because, I'm not going to lie, childhood trauma does a doozy on you. And so, but I've been through the process of healing, and God is, still healing me. But just the strides that I've been able to make, like, I would not have been able to talk about my story and losing my dad, maybe 3 years ago. That's when I first started my spiritual journey. And so, through that healing process, first God needed to heal me in order for me to help heal others. And so I will say that the book is written in a conversational style, like, it's written as a conversation so that it's easy to read and digest. And I could have, wrote with ego. I could have, used all these big words as this Ivy Leaguer and spoken in the scientific way, because I'm so used to scientific writing. But I had to be very clear on my intentions and the results that I was trying to get through my writing. And it's to connect. And language is one powerful way that we can connect. And so that's how my book is written. So if you, want to get, insight on, how to read it, or like the way it reads, you can also go to Amazon, and then you can click on the preview, this title, or look inside, and you'll be able to see the first couple of pages.
Oh, that's fantastic, Crystal. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited. Everybody go get that book. In the description, all that information she just shared is there. Now, Crystal, how do people find you if they want to reach out to you? Do you social media, website? What's the best way to track you down?
The best way to track me down is going to my Instagram. So it is at Crystal Harrell _. And if you shoot me a DM, if you have any questions about my work, I always respond to my messages. And if you want a more official way, you can also go to my website, which is crystalclearinnovation.com. And I also have like a contact form, or you could just find more resources about my journey, more about my background as well.
And you have a free gift for anybody that has shown up here today to listen or watch. So do you want to tell us about that?
Of course. So yeah, if you go to my Instagram, if you also was to just connect there, and like, if you click on the link in my bio, you'll be able to get your free gift, and it's a free chapter of my book, and so you'll find that there.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys, a free chapter. So you can go and grab that right away, but then go grab her book. Unless, of course, you're waiting for the audio, but why not get both, right? Why not have one on your Kindle and have an audio for the car? I mean, why not do both? That's awesome. Crystal, your river is flowing at high tide, and there's going to be so many lives changed. Oh my goodness. Is there anything else on your heart today that you didn't get to communicate that you would like to?
I honestly just the way this conversation has flowed with you, Pamela, I really cannot thank you enough for allowing me to share this space with you. Everything, I've said was from a place of love and gratitude. And so I really pray that it is portrayed in that manner, because I understand the way culture is shifting. And I know, like, at least in my community, people are kind of moving away from, glorifying the super, super high achievers. And there's like, you don't have to go to school in order to be successful or to be worthy. And honestly, that's true. You don't have to spend 10 years in school like I did. But my story isn't about going to school. It isn't about, achieving these things. It's about walking in your truth. Yeah. I love education. It's honestly something that honestly, like when I wake up, like I'm just like, what can I learn? I always want to go to bed learning or knowing something more than what I knew before when I woke up. So I'm addicted to the learning process. I label myself as a philomath, a learner of life too. So I hope that is what my story is about. It's about walking in your truth, walking in your purpose, and inspiring people to do the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And the other thing that I want to circle back to here is, from public housing to Ivy League. Yeah, not everybody might be called to Ivy League. I get that. But what Crystal's saying here, what I'm gleaning is it's about having vision.
Yes.
And it's about your dreams and goals and running after them.
Yes.
Going after them and not letting things stop you, and having a good support system and cheerleaders and all that in your life. And of course, knowing that you're here on purpose with a purpose by design. Oh my goodness, Crystal, thank you so much for being here. I feel so inspired. I love it. I know that this is going to touch so many lives, and that it has already, and there's going to be more and more and more and more. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a treasure. And thank you to all of you.
Yes.
Faithful who have shown up again, whether you've been listening or you're watching. We're so grateful for you and thankful for you. So listen, do us a favor. I know that you just love Crystal as much as I do. If you want to see her book just off the charts, even better than it was, and help so many people, do us a favor. Get the book. Number 2, would you like and share? Will you please like and share? And comment on this and reach out to her. Let's take Crystal's message around the world. Come on, let's take it virtual. Let's take it hyperspace. Let's make it go viral all over the place. So you have a part to play in that, and we couldn't do it without you. As always, thank you for being here. Love you all so much. You are here on purpose with a purpose by design, not by default. Now go out there and be the salt and the light everywhere you go. See you next time.
Ascend Above the Crowd is the newest course by Pamela Hinkle. Ascend is a self-paced email course that will come directly to your inbox and will change your mindset and your life. Each week, you will receive lessons, resources, challenges, and journal writings that will help you discover your purpose by design. It's your time to ascend above the crowd. To learn more about Ascend, go to www.purposewithpamela.com/ascend.
Pamela Hinkle is the founder of the Purpose Center. Pamela is a mindset mentor, author, speaker, minister, and transformation coach. Her weekly podcast, international radio show, and television show are a lifeline that changes lives and inspires people to discover their individual potential through realizing their purpose by design. Pamela is a natural motivator and has shown many how to find their niche and transform their lives. Although success is an uphill battle, Pamela gives the necessary strategies to flourish, cheering you on every step of the way. Pamela shares from her personal experiences, education, and life as a woman in leadership, utilizing decades of knowledge. Taking the approach of, let's have coffee and chat, she will awaken your dreams and purpose by design. Are you ready for Pamela to help guide you? Email us at purposewpamela.office@gmail.com or go to her website at purposewithpamela.com.